I hope you all are doing well. I don't know. I've tried to record this video so many times and I'm like, I just feel off and I have to like turn and it's freezing in my office, so whatever. Anyway, it's been a few minutes since I've made a video and I'm kind of excited to be back because I'm starting to see some cracking in the fields and some waking up that I'm very excited about. And I don't mean waking up like, here's the controlling matrix of the earth. Oh, I get there's a matrix and we're controlled by it and I've woken up out of it, right? Because do you know the majority of what we see about ascension has been manufactured as another version of the matrix? That the majority of people that wake up out of this, right, because most people are aware of the Illuminati, of the controlling families, all this kind of stuff, right? And the majority of people that wake up out of that wake up into a false ascension journey, which has been manufactured by the same energy. They just use a different color. It's like white instead of black, you know? So it's just another version of polarity. And this is kind of what I've been speaking against this whole time, but not really knowing how to show people. But then if people aren't ready to see it, they're not going to see it anyway. So, but what I'm noticing through my work, the hypnosis sessions, and through, I get a lot of like questions back about the light language recordings that I will make for people, and they're starting to ask questions like, okay, well, can you clarify what you mean when you say like false light and when you say like alignment? Like I feel like I've been working on this for so many years and like I know I've made progress, right? But I'm not really sure like that it's benefited me, or I don't see, like the twin is still whatever, like that's a whole nother thing, right? But it's like I've been putting in so much effort and so much time into this and I'm not really sure that it's paying off. And a lot of us have put in a lot of money to this too, right? Like it's not, if we're doing session work and things, it's not a small investment. So, and there's many ways, many places that we can spend our money, right? Like craziness. I think it's as bad, like, well, I don't know. It's like a drug, right? For a lot of people too. It's like, I just want to heal and I want to feel better. So I'm going to go do Reiki. I'm going to go do EFT sessions. I'm going to go do acupuncture. I'm going to go, right? It's like somebody like help get me out of this mess. Because not only do I want to wake up, I want to feel better. I want to feel like this is actually benefiting me. And it's not just like for the benefit of some light thing that's outside of me that doesn't even exist on this planet. So I'm happy to see that because we can wake up. We do wake up so many times, right? It's not just this initial waking up. Because initially, like I said, most people wake up out of this matrix and they go into this matrix, which is a trap in and of itself. And it takes a problem is it's easy to wake up out of this matrix now. It's almost guaranteed that if you're supposed to be on this journey, you're going to wake up out of that. And I don't mean to laugh, but it's like it's laughable at some points. Because so many people are here in this sector of the matrix now thinking they have really woken up and they're not quite there yet. And it's so frustrating for me to see this and to see it be perpetuated because it goes through waves, right? It's like, just like things get overturned in life, right? In politics and the government, it's like, oh, we have a new administration. Yay. And then it's like more of the same bullshit, right? It's the same in these false fields. It's like, oh, now there's a new person who's coming out who's saying something. Oh, yeah, I've always believed this to be true. Like, you resonate so much with me because they tweak what they're saying, right? And it sounds new and improved. And yet it's just more of the same, kind of thing going on. And really, this is why, and it's like beating a dead horse, though. It's like, this is why it's so important to come internal and to know who you are and what your blueprint is, and to know your schematics and your layout. Like, who cares about what all these other gurus are saying and what they're doing? Like, that's not going to get you to your light. That's going to get you to their light. And do they even know what light they're working with? So yeah, it's exciting to see. It's messy. It's not pretty. It's not going to be pretty for people to come into these realizations. But ultimately, this is where we need to be, and this is where we need to be going. So I think that's enough on that. The only other thing I want to talk about, well, two things. Because I don't feel quite to talk so much about my own experiences lately, except for the fact that I have always struggled on my journey, because I feel like, even though I've been doing so much work, right? Is it really helping? Is it really making a difference in my life? Like, I'm afraid to really say, yes, I'm on my path and I know what I'm doing, because, over these last couple of years, if you watch my videos, I've been complaining about all the problems I've had with my kids. I'm like, oh my God, everything's such a struggle. And like, really questioning, like, what the fuck has gone in my life? Like, what is going on? And why I struggle so badly, right? Because if I'm doing all this work, it seems like it should affect the rest of my life. And yet I've been on this like reorder thing for many, many years, because I've felt this internal, totally not conscious, like, I don't know why I've been doing it, but I have just felt this push to do it. And I've always felt like, in the back of my mind, I couldn't really feel like I was doing the right work until I saw progress with my children. So I had a dream about a month ago where I dreamt about my real life. I dreamt that my children were younger, and it was weird. I was in a basement of a church. I'm sure there's a reason for that. But I dreamt that I would have to leave my ex because he was abusive. And I in this dream, I was like, how am I going to do this? Because I'm going to have to carry one child under each arm, and this is going to be exhausting. Like, I'm not sure. I mean, like, I knew I had to do it, but I also, in my mind, was thinking, like, this is a really long road, and, like, I'm going to be exhausted carrying two kids, because literally that's what I was seeing, was having to physically carry them. And I remember thinking, and I can't even ask people for help. Like, there were some of, my friends around, and it was like, again, interesting, it was in the basement of a church. It was like one of those, where you used to go in the basement and they'd set up the tables and you would eat, you'd have these functions or whatever, like, that's what this was. But I was feeling like, even though there was a community around, I wasn't able to ask for support, because if my ex found out, he was going to be mad. It was going to make things worse, right? Which is very typical for abusive situations. It's like, you can't tell them, you have to make these preparations, right? And it has to be like a secret, we're leaving in the middle of the night kind of thing. So there was this element of that energy there. And then I woke up, and I remember like laughing about it, because I was like, I've already been through that nightmare. Like, that's nothing. Like, I've made that journey, and it was a really strange thing, because I've never actually dreamt about my real actual life in that way. And so a few days later, I had a vision that now I was holding these two kids, right? And it was strange, because they were like, it's not like you were holding two babies, right? It was like they were horizontal. Like, I was standing this way, and they were, I was holding them horizontal to the earth, and which of course is symbolic as well. But I had a vision then that they were now teenagers, and I could finally put them down. And even a couple of days prior to that, in real life, I remember thinking, like, I cannot carry these people anymore. Like, because no matter what I have done throughout these last, 4, 6, 8 years since this has been going on in my life, it's like, no matter how much therapy, no matter how many activities I tried to put them in, no matter what I tried to do to help myself to help them, right? Like, I would go to counseling and I would go to a life coach, and I'm like, why can't I be the mother that they need? It's like, no matter what I tried to do in my physical life, it was not having an effect. Like, they were not getting better. And oftentimes I felt like they were just getting worse. So of course we struggled over these last whatever with the school and all kinds of things, and just obviously school, because that's where they spend the most time, right, in their lives. So it's not blaming the schools, but there's just been a lot of things going on, and I just felt like no progress was ever being made. But it was like, once I had this dream, and then I had this vision, and then I realized, like, and I've always had this sense of like, I don't understand why I've had to keep my kids so, because that's really what it felt like. I was isolating myself, and I was also isolating them from the greater world. But really what I felt was, as I had this vision of like putting them down, it was like I had to carry them through the craziness of these old energy fields, right? Like, they were not supposed to be set down in that chaos. Like, I lived my life in this chaos. But I was here to make sure that they didn't have to embody that and interact with that on the level that I did. And so once the new, we call it, everyone has their own term for it, right? I just kind of call the old fields, the old energies, the new fields, new energies, right? So once these new fields had been set up, I was finally able to put them down. And that has only been within the last like month or so. But I will say that what has been miraculous to me is that suddenly, all within the same month, it's like my son was graduating from school. And so this kid who's always been a little bit, not a little bit, right? Because if you watched his video, you know what I'm talking about. A little bit sullen, a little bit depressed, a little bit not able to see into the outside world whatsoever, just very much in his own space, in his own world. And this is kind of what woke me up to the fact that there's something else going on with him, because he's supposed to be going out into the world. He's supposed to be living on his own at this point, and that's not really happening. And so I kind of had to take a look at, what's going on with that too. And yeah, he has some other, things in his physiology that we need to address. But suddenly it's like the kid who wouldn't ever notice anything is asking me questions and like engaging with me in a way that I didn't even think he was biologically capable of doing. Like, and there's been this struggle over the last year. It's like, oh my God, how many times do I have to tell you how to do, like, and remind you? And yes, some of this is typical teenager behavior, right? But there was never this, it was like there wasn't this connection in his mind that he could look at something and figure out, like, okay, I need something here. Like, I need to figure this out on my own, right? Like, he couldn't, it just didn't faze him. And so suddenly there's been a huge shift in him as well. Like, he's caring about things that I didn't, it's like, those are things that you don't teach people, right? And yet he wasn't getting it. And I'm like, well, how do you teach someone when they're supposed to pick up on this normally and naturally? And he just wasn't. So there have been some massive shifts for him, and my daughter as well, just in this last month. And as I look back, I was, oh my God, yeah, because now these new fields are here, right? So the children that we have all been carrying, and so many of us, right, especially, I say especially the twin flame journey, just because I think it is, and I wouldn't know any different, right? But I think it is harder to be a twin and to be on this journey and in this process, because, not only do you have this matrix and that matrix, then you've got the pull of the twin and the chaos of coming from this matrix too, right? With the twin flame nonsense. But I guess I will just say, like, for myself, I have finally seen the proof that I've been asking for. And so much of this is so hard to know, because I think that, again, what I always just refer to as love and light modeling, right? Which is how I came into this journey. This was my experience to come in. I've spoken of this before, but I took these channeling classes, and then I took Reiki, and then I took all these. It's kind of that progression, right? Of like kind of waking up to the fact that there is something beyond this earthly realm, which I had always been completely dead asleep to, which is, it's just crazy to me. But to know that this was all part of the process, because when I was going through my like original waking up, I had a lot of shame about the fact that I could not just accept things that the other people were able to accept and to fix my life because of it, right? It's like, well, take Reiki and you can heal your chakras and help, whatever, not heal your chakras, but, you know, align and adjust your energy field, and this should help you feel better and be more productive and have a stronger will and a stronger, you know, you can channel now and you can connect into your guides and angels, and like, that just didn't work for me, you know, and I didn't get it, and I felt I was just like, I was being stubborn, or like I missed something, like there was something wrong with me. But now I'm seeing the truth of it, right? Which is that wasn't even true source light. And now that I've been working in the way that I've been working in the past several years, there's been this like, this is not easy work. And I always thought that when you are ascending, like it should make your life look better and look, you know, like you should be in better shape, and you should have, you know, be eating healthier and be doing all these things. And oftentimes what really happens, because you're so exhausted and because you're kind of tearing yourself apart, it goes in the total opposite direction, right? And life looks a lot worse and life feels a lot harder when you're actually doing the real work. So I've kind of always been hesitant to even not just say, but to even feel within my own being that I slightly had something figured out, you know? But now I'm like really happy to say that, oh my God, like it was true. Like I really did literally have to carry these kids, because for a long time that was part of, like, I felt like I was just being codependent and enabling, right? Like, and not allowing them to take responsibility for their own lives. And yet really what I was doing energetically was making sure that they were not getting stuck in the crap of those old fields. Because that is always what I have felt too. It's like, if I do nothing else, it's to make sure that they are not stuck in that lineage and they are not stuck in that crap, you know? Even though I never felt like I was being very successful because life has been so chaotic. But again, as I said in the beginning, it's like the light is really starting to crack through, not just the darkness and the matrix that we all know about, but through the false light as well. And I'm really happy to see this occurring, because yes, this is painful. I think this is more painful, to think that you have woken up and then to be entrapped in all the insanity of, let's go back and talk to our inner child, and, you know, let's focus on our wounding, and let's, you know, let's meditate again. Let's open our third eye because we're not seeing enough. And I don't feel like I have enough knowing, and I don't feel like I have enough intuition. Even though I know I should know more than I know, I don't feel like I really do, right? And the frustration of all of that, I feel is much, much more painful than being in this matrix. It really is. And I really feel for people who are struggling. But I just want to say to you that there is another way. And you're not going to find it out there. You're not going to find articles about it. And yeah, there may be other articles that seem to come up with new ideas and to have this resonance. And there is a lot of information out there that can be helpful. But for the most part, I would say all of it still holds distortion to some degree. So I hope that's helpful. I just, you know, really want to, from the bottom of my heart, it's like I really feel for people who are struggling, really wanting, you know, to move out of the pain and the suffering, the pain and suffering of the light, which is this false light, which, as I've said, is much more detrimental to the human spirit than I think this is at this point. So, okay, that's all I have. I wish you all a wonderful rest of your day or wherever you are in the world. So much love, so many blessings. We'll talk soon. Take good care.